Hey guys, what's up, everybody? Mario here for the Made for More Consulting podcast. Welcome to the new year. It is episode 52. We are remote. I'm actually at my brother's house, and it was the quietest place I could get. And then actually, a little side note is I don't know what virus is running through our family, but the entire family, not just my daughters and my wife, but the entire family. Um, but anyways, I just wanted to let you guys know that it's a new year. It's going to be amazing. We have our first interview, but I'll get to that in just a second. It really, again, out in Midland, Texas. Still out of town. We'll be here for a couple more days. But today we're on a new platform. It's called Riverside. So Riverside, thanks to their studio for helping us go on a different video when you're remote. So riverside.fm studio is pretty legit. Go check it out. It's going to be on YouTube. And today, man, it's a new year tonight, actually. So when you hear this, it's actually the 31st when I'm recording. But tonight we have today we have a returning guest. So a friend, a mentor. Welcome back, Jay Mayo. What's up, man?
What's up, man? Good to be with you.
Yeah, dude, I like your handle on this podcast. It says your mama for those of you that are watching on YouTube.
Yeah, it asked me for my sign-in name, and I thought only you were going to see that. And now everyone knows that you're interviewing their mama.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. So how are you? Where are you, man? Tell us where you're at right now.
I am out about an hour and 10 minutes south of Midland at my aunt and uncle's. I have a ranch out here, so I'm just coming out to do a little bit of hunting. So it's kind of by Big Lake area, and so yeah, I went deer hunting a little bit this morning. Saw some cool bucks and javelina hogs, and so we're gonna hunt this afternoon and next couple of days. So just doing a little redneck recreation.
Well, dude, I appreciate you, taking some time out to record our first podcast of the year, man. It's going to be a good year, dude. I know we recorded back in the summer, and I'm pretty sure yours is probably one of the most downloaded episodes because we keep track of that. So, but man, I appreciate you spending some time with us, and we'll jump right into that in just a second about being present in 2022. That's what you and I have talked about or sent a few texts about. The new year, being present, and so we'll get into that in just a sec, man. But before we get started, so where are you at, man? Tell us what your role is. Has it changed? What's going on your end?
Yeah, I'm actually transitioning to. I'm still at the same company. Um, we're we're going through kind of a name change. Well, not really a name change. It's more complicated than people probably care to know. But I'm working now for the company that we actually operated for. If you're in the oil and gas industry, sometimes an operator operates assets for a company that owns the assets. So now we're actually working for the company that owns the assets, and so we're all transitioning over kind of as a team. But my role's getting clarified in January, which is good. I was over all of operations, um, kind of in a COO role. Um, and I did team building and leadership development. But now the good thing is I'm transitioning to really do that completely. And so I'm now going to be vice president of um, team development, employee relations. And so
That's awesome,
just do
man.
primary team building, mentoring, relational roles. So, um, yeah, I'm excited about
Yeah, one of the things that we call it is at Slab is team care.
it. Yeah.
Just because from team building to hey, how are you doing? What's going on in life? And so that's from top to bottom. We're trying to dial that in for my role with Slab. But man, I know you and I text, and it sounds like a lot of the same things that we do for the organizations. So,
Yeah.
man, if I have snot coming out of my nose at some point, just tell me I have something on my nose. Try to load up on Vicks and put Vicks all over
Oh,
my
nice.
stash.
Smells like a pancake factory there.
Hey man, did you hear before we get started? Did you hear? What are you drinking, dude?
I'm drinking a Bang.
Oh, come on, man.
I didn't tell you that, but I will be. Um, I'm going to be sponsored by Bang starting in 2020.
I'm
Yeah,
sure John Bang Bang Evans has something to say about that. So
they're doing. They're going to have a new drink. It's called Redneck Juice, and I'll send you a 6 pack.
nice. Well, dude, like I said, I'm glad you're here. We've been looking forward to it, man, because you and I, again, we're starting an adventure, I think, in your own life, starting something, and then myself being a year into it. And a little bit later this week, people should be able to see on our social media some of the things that I wrote down that I said I learned through leadership in 2021 that we can carry over. But one of the things being today, I'll send out a post about, today's a good time to start a 30, 60, 90 if they've never used it, because it's going to be the first completely easy if you start that. So I sent that to our Made for More team. But dude, on 2022, man, I know you spoke at a church in Midland about just that, being present in 2022. So tell me this, Jay, why be present? What is it? What was the whole topic about be present? Why did you choose the wording be present?
It's very personal to me. Yeah, of course, we were trying to figure out what topic to talk about in that transitional Sunday between Christmas and New Year's, and so I was trying to think about what do people need to hear. Sitting in my office, and over my desk at my office, uh, I had one of my friends at work had bought me this. It's metal art, but it simply says "Be present." I hang it over my computers to kind of as this challenge to remind me to be present in this moment. Like, don't miss the moment. Don't. And so I just thought that's what I want to talk about. I mean, for my own challenge and to challenge people that 2022 could be a different year for you if you just simply learn how to be present and fully engaged in the moment that's in front of you. So I just kind of crafted a message about how to be fully present out of a passage in the Bible. But um, yeah, so it's summary. It's learning how to live in the present in light of the past and the future. Because the thing that keeps you from being present, keeps me from being present, is either the past or the future. And sometimes you try to live in either one of those, but you can only live in the present moment. So yeah, that's kind of how it came to be. I was trying to think about what to talk about in my own challenge in my own life. I was like, I just struggle with being present, and I want to be more present in relationships and everything in 2022. So that's kind of how it started.
Cool, man. So a couple of things that I thought of when I read over your notes. Well, the first thing being, guys, if you're interested in what Jay taught, we'll link Stonegate's message if that's okay with you, Jay, in our
Sure.
notes, so they can go watch it. But dude, I think that one of the things that I really love to talk to you about, man. So you're saying be present. That's the focal point of changing 2022 for yourself. And you talked about the past, you talked about the future, and if you're stuck in either one of those, it's also a distraction. And I know you talked about distraction. And one of the things that I want you to maybe talk to us about is, how do you how do you keep your eye away from distractions? And one of the things I know I shared when we first launched this podcast was distraction. The definition meaning someone was tied to four horses, and when they took off,
Oh yeah.
two horses had two legs, two horses had two hands, and so it just rip apart the body, which was called distraction. And so if you and I are trying to focus on some goals or a goal or being someone new in 2022, we can't be pulled in different directions, which we are. But how do you stay focused? And man, talk a little bit about that, man. You talk about distraction in this message, and I thought you hit it pretty well about that you're gonna be, you can only be focused probably on one thing, and if you're not, you're distracted.
Yeah, I love that illustration you referenced that you used before. And I think a huge piece of it is what you guys talk about, and help me if I don't say the phrase that you say often at Made for More. Um, when you talk about if you don't, I'm gonna totally mess it up. So you step in and say it right. When you're talking about if you don't plan your schedule's gonna plan you. If you don't, that kind of saying that you say. I think a huge piece of overcoming distraction is intentionality, for me. And it's that, and what I mean by that is proactive, being proactively in charge of the moment, your schedule. Again, it's something you guys just do an incredible job teaching and revisiting in almost every one of your podcasts. And I think that's a huge key. It's that if I'm passive, if I'm not proactive, then I will be dominated by distraction. Is that makes sense? If I don't control my focus, then it will be controlled by something, and I won't have any control over it. So I think the message was, to be more specific, how the past and the future can sometimes distract us from the present. But when you ask that question, how do you overcome distraction? I think the heart of that message, and really the bigger picture that I think you guys talk about so well, is you have to become intentional with your time and your focus, and that involves planning and daily being strategic about what you're going to do. But I think intentionality is a huge piece of overcoming distraction, because in some ways it's taking control of your direction and your time. Something else will it and fill in the phrase that I kept trying to. If you remember, you say it in so many different ways, but I hear you say it all the time when I listen to the podcast.
Yeah, we say it that you dictate the situation, or the situation is going to dictate you,
Yes,
right? And
that's
then
it.
we also say, the whole intentional, man. It's that whole discipline equals freedom. If you're disciplined, going after one thing, the freedom will come when you reach that goal. And I think for me, I know you and I've talked, but some people may have not, whether this is their first time they've listened or not, but man, it is so easy to have multiple goals, and then I get overwhelmed and don't move on any of them. And I'm making small steps forward, but being focused on one thing, I don't. I don't. It's easy to get distracted by good things as well. And one of the things I was going to share today on social media, like the top 5 things I learned in leadership, is number one is being successful comes at a sacrifice, even of good things. And I'm not saying relationships in a bad way, but at some point you're going to have to go, if I want to be successful, it means I got to, some things there's going to be a sacrifice, meaning, um, for me this year, it was taking the secondary job and making it primary, my primary, making it secondary. And that
Yeah,
hurt because, there were relationships that I have that I had to put second. And I know that sounds bad, but I have to follow what I believe is my calling.
yeah,
But then on the other side, the freedom that came with that was with my family. I got to spend more time with my family. Jamie and I are dreaming together about Made for More. We talk things over. I spend more time with our team, and then it also introduced me to I would say about 70 or 80 new employees at Slab, and then 2 other clients, and then you and I talking through things. So I think success comes with some sacrifice. But I think when we see that sacrifice, we tend to get distracted and say, "No, I don't think I have to go all the way. Let me just do a little bit of it, and maybe I can keep both worlds, going forward." And I think for me, again, that struggle is the fact that I have multiple goals I don't want to reach, and I get paralyzed. And again, it's what you said. I'm looking to the future, going, how do I get 5 coaches? How do I, prioritize my time better? But if I have all those things and I'm not doing anything, then I'm just sitting still. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah. I think it's such a subtle nuance. When you think about strategic goals and planning, which are essential, again, you guys do a great job helping all of us with different tools to do that. But I think what can happen is you can you can be if you don't learn how to live in the present in light of the future, it's a subtle distraction, and that's what I was talking about in this talk I did. In other words, it's not saying don't plan for the future. It's not saying don't look to the future. It's looking through the present in light of future goals and plans. So it's very strategic, but it's possible for me to be so focused on future goals or what is to be that I miss the moment right in front of me. I mean, and it's definitely possible in the same way we're looking at the past, but I think that's the subtle reality that I think challenges me. Is it's almost like how many times have we maybe said it this way, or you've talked to people who are in a job or in a situation, and you talk to them and they're like, yeah, but one day I really want to do this. It's like they're just on pause right now, but everything is focused on, well, one day it'll be different, but they're missing this moment. And and so I think, again, the future is important, and so is the past. You can learn from both, but you have to live in the present in light of each. But there's, you have to know how to do that, because you can not even realize you're being distracted even by future planning, like you talked about. You can be so focused on the future that you miss, okay, what step today in this moment do I need to take? And again, that's where I think tools like 30, 60, 90 are so simple yet powerful to go. I remember, as you know, when you would lead our 30, 60, 90 in our staff teams meeting, it was such a simple tool, but so powerful to go, okay, it's not, a lot of times we look at the 90 and we try to live toward the 90, but we're so distracted from what's today or the next 30 days. What needs to be in line for me to get to where I need to go. So it's just that reality of, I don't want to miss this present moment in front of me, because all of my focus is on the future or the past. I mean, it seems so obvious, but for me, man, I struggle with that in every area of my life. I struggle with being present.
Yeah, and I think if you said being present is one of your goals or focuses for 2022, you or I or whoever, I mean, you can break that down and say with my family, with work. And again, breaking that down even more is, hey, 30, 60, 90, here's my schedule. I'm going to tell my schedule what it needs to do. And then, hey, as simple as, hey, when I'm in a staff meeting, I'm going to put my phone away. And I had this conversation with my family the other day was, um, we were talking about when someone says call them and you call them and they don't answer their phone, then we go, hey, then why in the world do we have a freaking phone? Well, then they said, hey, just text me. And I go, well, I'm in front of somebody right now. I can't answer or whatever it is. We were saying stay focused on the people in front of you. That's how you become intentional about being present. And so it's the small things. And I think one of the things I've learned too, Jay, that you and I have talked about is the 30, 60, 90. It's so subtle, right? But if you take that away for a year, you feel almost lost. And you go, if you've used it for a year and you go, man, that's the reason it was there, was to have planning. Some of those meetings are so mundane and boring, but in the end, it's repetitious work that creates an environment where you go, we're going to succeed because we're consistent. We have the reps in and we can do it. And yes, you're going to miss a couple meetings, but man, being consistent and practicing those reps, you get that under your belt and you go, hey man, this is for a reason. And then strategically, you look at the big picture and you go, look at what we've done over the years. So what was interesting today was looking at my 30, 60, 90 for this last year and realizing, man, this is that I did a lot. Now I can pair it up with this year's. And so, yeah, man. And I guess one of the questions I had for you, man, is like, what are some of the ways that you would compartmentalize being present? I mean, I said work and family, but are there things that you would say like self-care for yourself, like going hunting? What are some of the ways that you go, man, these are the things I need to be intentional about being present in my life?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think when I was looking at my own life and really challenging people as I did this talk, I was trying to think about, um, definitely relationships. I think the ways I broke it down was, because I'd given some, I was trying to walk through it and give them some questions to get alone, and just, in between the end of this year and the first of next year, get away for an hour and then ask yourself these questions. So some of those questions prioritized or compartmentalized, and so some of it had to do with, how can I be present in relationships, but the others were in opportunities of influence. So it's in the same way we think sometimes. I think we all want to make a difference in the world. Well, we want to make an impact, um, but so many times again, I'm not minimizing dreams and goals that you and I've talked about, that you're pushing me to step out this next year in 2022 and act on some of the dreams and goals of influence and impact in my life. But one of the questions in this process I was challenging people to ask was, what are the opportunities of influence right now, right in front of you? Like, who are the people that God's put in your life to love right now? They're right in front of you. You don't have to go, not in the future. You can have it in the plan. What are the opportunities right now to make a difference in your environment, in your context? And so maybe, and there's probably a ton of other compartments or areas you can fill that in, but I focused on relationships, um, and opportunities of impact. How can I be present in those in 2022? I was trying to think if I could do a couple of simple things with people and get them to get alone for an hour and look at 2022. I wanted them to look at those areas of being present. Be present in your relationships. Be present in the opportunities to make a difference in the world. And so I try to identify what those are. And then I know we haven't talked about how this will all unfold if this is a part two or something, but the past and the future piece are huge because I think it helps us understand why why do we struggle to be present. There's some reasons as leaders and people we struggle to stay present, and some of those have to do with our connectivity to past, not knowing how to deal with the past, but also not necessarily understanding how to envision a future that needs to be lived out in the present. So it's our relationship with the past and the present that often keep us distracted. And so it's a little more intangible, you know. So I tried to unpack why do we get stuck in the past, um, because I think even as leaders that we can struggle to be present for multiple reasons. One of those is because we're stuck focused on the past, and we need to understand, why am I stuck in the past? What is it that I'm stuck in that keeps me from being present? Because it will definitely hold us back as people, but as leaders, to kind of stay stuck in experiences and circumstances or failures in the past. And so again, um, I think I got off the original question you asked me, but those are the areas I compartmentalized it in.
No, man, that's real good because I think if you and I are going to be present and you look at relationships and you look at the people around you, and I think oftentimes one of the things what's interesting I wrote down this morning that you got to be intentional and when you invest in people. So if you're going to be present, you got to invest in people. You have to be present, and that happens with time. It doesn't happen. Some of us sometimes want the end of where we're wanting to lead someone to happen pretty quick.
Yeah.
But this past year, I've met with a couple of people once a week, and yes, we've missed weeks here and there. But man, the development you see over whatever it is, I'd say about 40 weeks, maybe 35 weeks of spending time with someone 1 hour a week is amazing versus going, hey, I'm going to spend the next 5 days with you for 1 hour and I need you to be here. And I get it. Some of our jobs are going to require that.
Right.
But man, and when you talk about leadership and talk about legacy and talk about intentionality, that person's going to carry further what you do for them in those times and investment rather than wanting it to be done quick. And I get it.
Yeah.
Our jobs demand certain things. But man, when you're present with someone and intentional, you begin to go, what does this require of me? And yes, this is what I'm willing to spend time with. And maybe this next year, instead of 20 people, it's only 5. And you go, it didn't look like this. This isn't what I thought it was going to look like. But this next year is only going to be 5 people instead of 20. And I got to trust that the path that I'm on with intentionality and being present is going to be working its way through whatever it is, an hour, hour and a half, whatever it is weekly with your people. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
One thing it might be good for us to clarify, and maybe I'll give a thought and you kind of clarify what you're thinking. I think as we talk about this, it'd be good for us to define what we mean when we mean be present. Because, like, when I mean be present, I'm talking like in relationships, for example. I think some people can see it as just being physically present, like be with those people, which is part of it. But what I'm talking about is when I say be present, I mean be fully engaged in the moment. Because you and I know it's possible to be in the room with someone and to be physically present, but not be relationally engaged. And so that's what I mean. It's possible to show up, to a context, but not to be fully engaged. So that's what I think about when I think of being present. I'm talking about being fully engaged in the relationships that I want to invest in. Um, so, I mean, I don't know if you add that or how you would define it.
No, I think you're good. I think you're spot on. I think a few years ago, one of the things I learned was stop looking at the next thing or the next big thing. Because what we say is what you said earlier. If I could just do this,
Yeah.
well, another way to say it is, well, when I get to this spot, if you're, I mean, and I get it. We're goal oriented, and yes, it's good to have goals and shoot and focus at things. But when that becomes to get so engulfed in our lives, the people around us take a hit. And then you're so focused on just that you put the relational value of others to the wayside or the back seat or whatever. Um, and I get it, man. And I think one of the things for me this past, I'd say the last 2 months, Jay, reading, leading on empty again this past month, man, it was it's a calling of mine to help students, right? And it was a dream of mine. It was a dream job, but I allowed that to steal the intentional moments that I could have had with my family, with my
Mhm.
friends, um, with so many things, and it was a good thing, right? And so that when you say that, that's what comes to mind is going, yes, that's a calling of mine, but I also need to know when I need to be engaged with my family, with my wife, with my girls, and I mean, it's like this. My daughter's having dance. I gotta, hey guys, this is priority to me. I need to let you guys know I'm going to be out of here at 4 o'clock because she has a dance at 5, whatever it is. But
Mhm.
it's you looking at your plan, your schedule. And that's why, again, we go back to going, when you have a schedule, you know what's coming. And when you know what's coming, you know who to communicate that to. And when you communicate that to someone, it's not a surprise. And when it's not a surprise, you build trust. And when you build trust, you build teamwork. And so you're going, there's a
Yeah.
reason we communicate, there's a reason we plan. And again, it's all intentional back to what? To being present. If I'm going to be present in my daughter's lives, my planning schedule and my schedule itself is very important. And
Mhm.
that's the why. Same thing with my wife. Same thing with our friendship. We can say all day long. It's like when you go to a funeral, right? And you go, man, we need to stop getting together like this because this is the only time I get to see people. That just reminds me,
Right.
going, man, we get so focused on the things that we're doing that in the end, legacy is about stopping and being intentional because those people are going to remember what you did for them, not all the
Mhm.
things you accumulated. And it's tough because we get so, again, engulfed in what we're doing.
Yeah.
Um, let me see there was another thing that you had talked about. What do you need to let go of is one of the questions you asked.
Yeah. Yeah. I was talking about that first reality of we're distracted from the present because of the past. And I just talked about this reality of, um, it's based on it, and I'm not preaching a message here, but it's based on a passage in the Bible, Philippians chapter 3. And so the guy says, he says this phrase, forget what's behind you. And I just unpacked it. And so it doesn't mean forget the past. That's not what he's saying, because the past is important for all of us. Like, we all have uh, the ability to remember. I mean, God gave us the ability to remember because there's value in remembering the past, learning from mistakes, learning from the past. So he's not saying just forget the past, like tomorrow's tomorrow, forget about it. That's not what he's saying. The actual phrase he's talking about is let go of the things you can't understand or explain. So it's this word, the idea of forget is this, it means to be hidden. And so um, it's this kind of challenge to, specifically for this talk I had, I was challenging people, look at 2021 and think what experiences, what expectations, what relationship hurts, what things do you need to let go of and leave behind in 2021? The things you can't understand or explain, because I think this is going to sound different than what we all say when we talk about the why. I'm talking about the why in a different way. It's stop chasing the why, not like you and I would as far as purpose, but like, why did this happen or why didn't this happen? Stop chasing the answer to some of those questions. All it does is keep you stuck in the past. And so, yeah, that was the letting go. I was just challenging people to say, like, as you look back on 2021, There might be some pain and struggle or unmet expectations or even hurtful relationships that you're sitting here trying to figure out the why, and you're staying stuck in that. You just need to accept the things you may not understand or explain and leave that behind in 2021. Stop hanging on or searching for something that you're never going to find the answer to. So that was the letting go. I think why we get stuck in the past, and that could be true. Like, to pull this into the whole leadership environment beyond the relationship piece, but even like for innovation and things like that. Sometimes companies just get stuck in the past instead of being present with innovation, so for some leaders it may just be what things that you what ways of leading in 2021 and you look back and go, that just is not working. Okay, stop trying to stop trying to turn the volume up on it or do it harder and louder. Just let that go and go, I've got to move towards something new in 2022, and let go of some ways of leading or trying to initiate change that aren't working. So, I mean, it has a lot of different applications, but that's primarily what I was thinking in my own life. I get so hung up sometimes in trying to understand and explain failures or things that didn't work that I just find myself. It takes my time away from the present because I keep trying to look back and go, why didn't that work? Why didn't that happen? Why did this happen? And so the challenge to let it go.
Yeah, I think one of the ways we call that is detachment, is to be able to detach and go, if I can learn from it, what can I learn from? Write it down and emotionally remove the attachment to it. Because if not, you and I are stuck going, man, that didn't work. Man, I spent whatever 2 hours on that and it didn't work. But look at the way to go, how can I, again, dictate the situation to go, and it's not manipulate the situation, but how can I dictate the situation to go in my favor, that's going to help me get to where I need to go. And
Yeah.
that's not relational. It's situational to go for me in my life. If this retreat didn't go well, or this team building didn't go well, well, next time I got to have a better plan. Again, let it go and build some trust. Ask people what didn't work, what they would change, if anything. But again, it's different in situations. But yeah, man, that's really good. I think again, you had clarified on there, and I like that because you said stop chasing the why in two simple ways. Why did this happen, or why didn't that happen? And that's not what we say when we say, go after your why. But that why is one of the whys that will, trap you if you go, why did this happen? Why didn't it happen?
Yeah. And I love that emotional detachment. I was listening to, I know you and I both listened to Jocko. Um, I don't know if but I don't really know which podcast I was listening to the other day when I was working out, but he was talking about this very thing, and like how leadership is present. Like this whole idea in present just kind of hit me as we were talking about it. You lead. There was only one moment you and I live in. It's right now. You know what I mean? We say, well, I'm living in the past, but that's not even possible. Or I'm living in the future. We focus on that, but it's kind of like going, I'm running forward, but looking back, I'm just setting myself up for disaster because what I'm saying, I'm gonna, or either I'm gonna stop. But he was talking about, and I probably don't say it exactly like he said it, but the most important decision, leadership decision, is this one, is the one right. Like, I made a decision, I made a bet. Okay, you're going to have some time to kind of rethink that through and evaluate and analyze. But he's like, you have to stay present in this moment. People need you to lead right now. And that's where I think that detachment is. Okay, that was a it was a failure. I'd make a good decision there, but the next decision is my most important leadership decision. I have to stay present to lead, and those guys obviously, it's no less important, but those guys were doing it in situations where, in the heat of battle, where like, I don't have time to sit down and cry about that last decision. People's lives are at stake right now, and so that's so good that I'm still struggling, man, with that emotional detachment. I don't know about you, like trying to not take everything and get distracted and stay detached enough to stay present in leadership. But that is such a good word, man.
Yeah, I think just learning that, hey, I can take what happened forward to go, I don't want to be in that situation again,
Yeah.
but emotionally detached from it. Again, like you said, in their lives, it was all hell breaking loose with people dying. I mean, he talked about one of his own men dying and having to regroup within 5 minutes and go, "We're going back out there."
Yeah.
That to some of us, we're going, "Hey, I gotta emotionally get ready for this," and he's going, "We don't have time for that."
Yeah.
But he was training again. They're following their training, and what was their training? It was planned. It was coordinated. They had a regiment they were going by. They were disciplined, and it's no different. And we can make that connection in our own lives, whether you're a pastor, whether you're someone who runs a convenience store or a place of a restaurant, or an oil business or whatever, man. I think if you're the leader, if you're one of the leaders in that organization, if you can have a plan and create those moments where you're present with each individual person and pass that on to them, um, and yeah, I think in the end, strategically, you win because you're tactically getting ready for things. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but man, yeah, that's really good, dude. And when I think of 2022, man, for you, um, what are some of the things that you say, hey, here's where I need to be present in 2022? I mean, you're saying it on our podcast, so multiple people are going to hear it. But what are some of the what are some areas that you say, hey, I have to be present in 2022 here, and maybe some of the things that you're looking forward to because that you're going to be present?
You know, I obviously worked through this whole thing. I was challenging people to do, and um, for me for 2022, and there's a lot more than we'll probably talk about on this podcast, but um, I struggled so much with the past of trying to understand. Um, I think you even referenced it on your last podcast, why I'm where I'm at today. Like trying to understand, like, hey, the story turned out a little different. And I'm missing this moment of going, here's where I'm at. I want to be fully present to where I'm at in the context I'm in this stage of life with my family, and stop trying to understand how the story didn't turn out like I thought it was going to turn out, uh, and just let go of that and be fully present. So I'm looking forward this year. I just want to be more fully present with um, my family, um, my role and the relationships that God's put right in front of me at the place that I work. I want to be more fully present to this. Kind of speaks to the future, um, of the things you've been bumping me, man, which I appreciate. Bumping me and pushing me to go after those dreams, um, that I believe the missions God has invited me into, which is part of that other talk where I talk about how am I going to, for me, how am I going to love and serve boldly in 2022? So I have a couple of things that have to do with very specific context of influence with first responders, and um, that context where you've heard me talk about that I really taken a risk to do. I want to be present. I want to live fully present in light of those dreams and invitations God's, I think, invited me into, to make a difference in the world. So I'm looking forward to that. I mean, I, um, I think all of the letting go of the past just helps me be more present in my relationships with my family, and definitely in the opportunities to influence in leadership roles at work. Because I just get I just get so distracted by trying to understand the past. It's just my personal weakness. Um, it makes me blind to. I think one of the things we both talked about when I was studying for that talk, I came across that phrase, um, that there's actually, it happens so often in people's life. There's an actual term for it, and it's called inattentional blindness. It's the ability to physically see something that's right in front of you, but to be blind by it because you're distracted by something else. So your eyes see, your brain recognizes it, but it's functionally blind to you. You never, it's right in front of you. You never see it, and that's sometimes how I can feel like I'm living my life. That was kind of how the talk got personal for me. I was like, man, I want 20. I want to be fully engaged, eyes wide open, going into 2020.
Yeah, I think one of the things I've learned this last month that, again, I'm reading this book for the third time, but one of the things he talked about was the fact that your eyes are a lens and your brain processes the things that you see. So if you're watching the news and you panic, your brain is telling you to panic. Your eyes aren't. So he's talking about your body needing the positive side of it. So again, you and I looking to be present, we can get down on ourselves because we look at the past or we're getting anxious because we're trying to stay in the future. We got to retrain our minds to go stay focused on what I'm looking at, because my brain needs to process the fact that here's an opportunity for me to take advantage of, rather than be paralyzed and go, man, it didn't work last time, or hey, is it going to work? Why did this happen? Why didn't this happen? And I think it was a challenge to me and a few other people that I shared it with, is to go, hey, man, the way you're responding is because you're allowing yourself to see that. Turn off the news, turn off whatever it is that's distracting you. And some of those things can be good distractions, but and you're going to miss the mark if you, again, it's right in front of you, but you're being distracted by several other things, man. So that's good.
The last I had re-listened to your most recent podcast with Made for More this week, and not to put you on the spot, but it was such a connection to what we're talking about today, and I can't remember how you said it. So I'm putting you on the spot if you remember how you said it. But you and Etiana were talking about looking at. You were talking about isolation versus reflection, and kind of how you look at the past. And I love the way that you guys worded that. It was kind of toward the end of that podcast, if you remember how you guys were talking about when you look at something, it can lead to isolation. But it was such a good lens of going, how I look at failures and the past can either lead to productive reflection or isolation. And it's really so interconnected to how I get stuck in the past. So I just thought that was such a good connection to what we're talking about today when we talk about being present.
Yeah, it was isolation or solitude, being able to decipher the both of those. And again, every one of our choices we make will lead us that down that road. My voice is changing. But yeah, dude, I think so. And one of the things, dude, that you mentioned earlier that I think that we have to at least talk about for a little bit, um, is the fact that there's responsibility and then there's concern. Meaning, when we are present, there's things that are our responsibility that we're going to have to take care of, and then there's some things that are concerns. If I'm over a staff or an organization and something happens at that organization while I'm away, if it's my responsibility, then I need to make the right calls and I need to go. But I'm at my daughter's dance or whatever party. But if it's a concern, it's going to be there. I got to let it go. I got to teach my brain to go, that's a concern. I can write it down. We can discuss it later. If it's my responsibility, then it's my responsibility to take care of it. And I think that's a reason to be decentralized, which is, create a team of people. But I think one of the things I'm trying to lean into in 2022 is responsibility and concern. And I'm challenging the CEOs and the main people that run their businesses to go, is this a concern or is this a responsibility? And it's the same thing with solitude and isolation.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah, if I solve all the problems, I man, I've been a weak leader to create a team. Even in those situations, like if I think if I know this is a concern and I'm where I need to be, which is spending time with my kids or my family, if my team, if there's the perception is I'm the only one that knows how to solve the situation, that's poor leadership on my part. Um, yeah, yeah. There's this whole idea of being present is such a good challenge for leadership, because it's just realizing leadership is, in many ways, leadership is in the moment. Leading. I mean, if you think about it, again, it sounds stupid when you think about it. You're like the act of leading is you're leading in the moment. I don't lead in the future. I don't lead in the past. I'm leading right now as I'm engaging people. So I better learn to be fully present to make decisions and lead. But also, again, we want to be fully present in our life. I want to be fully present when I'm at that. at my grandkids thing and I'm getting a work call, I want to be able to say, I want to be present where I need to be present right now. And yeah,
That's good, man. Yeah, I think the last thing that we can cover is man, I just had it. Let me look at my notes. Dude, I just lost it. Son of a gun. You're talking about being present. You're talking about isolation. Yeah, I guess it'll have to wait. I can't remember, man. I think again the challenge in being in 2022 is to be present. And how do you be present? Is break that down into going. These are the places I want to be present, and this is how I can be present. So the why is to go. The why for being present to me is to go. I want to create influence and leadership wherever I'm at, and that's what you're saying. Is that's what it is. So how do I do that? And you know how and what do I do? So why be present, how and what you get to decipher that in whatever situation that you're in. Um, but that's good, dude. I think that being present is just a challenge in itself for 2022, and the fact that you can also make a list of distractions. Oh, this is what I was going to say, Jay. It's so interesting that I want to plan a getaway or retreat for our team or for myself, but in every situation, you're going to have the opportunity to be present. Again, if you and I go out and we say we're going to go hunting or we're going to do a leadership retreat, man, it's so easy to get distracted if we're trying to plan it because we can go hunting, we can play video games, we can do whatever, we can eat. But if you don't intentionally plan, like we've said before, that whole time alone is trashed because you're not intentionally being present with the things you need to be present. So you can take what you're saying today and put that and overlay that over anything, whether it's a staff meeting, like, hey, be present. Well, what does it mean to be present in the staff meeting? Contribute, listen, and don't distract. Same thing with if it's a retreat. What is it going to be? What's going to be the intentional being present at this staff retreat? Or my visit to a store. What does it mean to be present here? Put your cell phone on silent and engage with the team. So I think being present, man, can be overlaid over a lot of things. Most importantly, your family and
yeah.
your relationships.
There's such an interconnection that you just pointed out there. There's such an interconnection to intentionality and planning. It's we want it to be like it's. Well, I'm just going to be. Like, I don't know why I have to talk in some weird type of voice that like whatever that means. But like I plan to be fully present. You know what I mean? So if I don't if I'm not strategic with my time, then I'll be distracted. Then again, that takes away from my ability to be present simply because I haven't been intentional. Like I want to be fully present at my grandkids or in my meetings. You know, like just the reality of going. I want to be fully present at a meeting. Something as simple as going, okay, I'm going to send out an agenda for a meeting so people can think through what we're going to talk about. So guess what they can do when they get to the meeting? Be fully engaged in the meeting. If they hear something for the very first time. So this whole idea of being present is so interconnected to intentionality and planning that's almost like the prep work for being present and also the prep work for eliminating distractions so I can be present have to do with intentionality and planning. So I'd love that piece of because you can do both. You can probably plan and not be present, um, but it's impossible to be present without planning, without being strategic and intentional. I just love that interconnection, and for me, um, primarily this challenge of that talk were to take those pieces. The one of the two pieces that keep us from being present, which is what things do I need to let go in leadership and life and relationships so I can be fully present in today from the past and in future. You know, what are the dreams that are before me that need to actually inform the present in 2022? And that's where it gets like to the 3069. How do I take that dream for 22 and make it step one? How am I going to live this out each month? The future in light of the present. So it's trying to, you know, live fully present in light of a future mission. So it's all this interconnection of planning and strategic intentionality. So
Yeah, man, that's good. And I think it starts with you just again getting alone, solitude. Um, Dude, I appreciate you, man. One of the things, just a couple well, I mean, just I guess some fun notes, man. Did you listen to John's podcast?
Yes.
I know you and I had shared was it a text that I sent about uh, the Wolf Brand Chili podcast meal he sent us this morning and just said it was the food of the podcast. So maybe 2022 will be sponsored by Wolf Brand Chili. Um,
So when are we going to do the? I almost said something that was going to sound uh, inappropriate. When are we going to have me, you, and John on the podcast?
Man, I don't know. I think what we need to do is to make sure we're in the same room.
Oh, it's.
What did you say?
I was fixing to say when are we going to do the three-way? That's why I was like,
Oh my gosh. John will laugh at that for sure.
that's something. John's like that'd be like 147 on the list of things John has said that you have that Word document. That's something like
Yeah, dude.
yeah,
Do you remember?
it's going to be over the top.
Yeah, do you remember one of the first things that I think he was new to staff and he said he let the dragon out of the cage?
That was right before he took his shirt off and wanted to take a walk around the building with me.
Yep. He was talking about letting a prank get too out of hand. And I said, dude, you cannot explain letting a prank get out of hand by saying you let the dragon out of the cage. I said, dude, that is not good, especially at a church camp.
I love that dude, man. He's
Yeah, man, we'll have to get together and put us all three in the same room, get some barbecue and eat. Um, but dude, again, man, I really do appreciate all that you've done for us, man. I'm looking forward to 2022 with you and some of the things that you have planned.
yeah,
I
man.
know for us, we have a new client coming on in January. We're going to talk a little bit more about. We have some new merch. We have stickers. We have all kinds of stuff, man. But I know for me, being intentional, being present is a good challenge for me and our team. Diversifying my time was one of the goals that I think we came up with as a team. But dude, yeah, man. Any last words before I close us out?
No, man, I appreciate the friendship and I appreciate the I texted you last week about the shout outs of just the times you've said, you're grateful for me and the role I played in just helping you kind of pursue Made for More. But man, like that was just me calling out a dream that was already in you. What I appreciate about that in our friendship is you're doing the same with me now. You're pushing me and bumping me to do this, like to stop talking about it and start pursuing the things that I know that some of the things that are dreams and missions on my heart. So I appreciate that. And I always love when we get together and talk and do these kind of things. Challenges me. So I appreciate it. Appreciate what Made for More's doing and the difference. One thing that I thought was cool that you and I've talked about before, but I kind of heard it from your team last week, is don't ever underestimate the impact of the risk that of taking a risk. How your team was telling you last week, it's because you took that risk that their lives were impacted. That was cool. Like sometimes we think about ourselves in that, but like my inability or my fear to take a risk is taking away from the future impact in someone else's life that wouldn't be there if I didn't take a risk, even if I failed or whatever.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, man. That's good. I appreciate that, Jay. I really do, man. So everybody, just be on the lookout. I know we have another topic to cover at some point, man. That we'll schedule that. But if you're listening, episode 52, wrapping that up, make sure you go buy the book, Iron Sharpened Leadership. I can't remember who wrote it. I'm going to be on blast for not remembering who wrote that. But Iron Sharpened Leadership. It's a really good book. We're going to be discussing that. We may be discussing books a little bit different this year, but Adina and I will be back together. Jay, we'll wrap up the next, or we'll schedule another podcast because I know you and I want to talk about the difference or the space between your dream and goal and where you're at and how to get there and how to be content and focused on where you're at. So we'll get that going, man. But again, dude, I appreciate you. And again, just like we close out every time, remember, we exist for more. We're here to offer more. Don't ever give up. Every single one of us is made for more. Later, guys.